Hey, what's going on, guys? UFC Fight Night Austin, Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan just ended, and this is going to be my post-fight recap for the main event. I'll also be doing a full card post-fight as well. I'll link that down in the description as soon as that's done. But what a statement win for Arman Tsarukyan. He finally gets the opportunity to fight towards the top of the division, and we're going to discuss the lightweight division in this video. And he brutally KOs Beneil Dariush in the first round, and not just the first round, the first minute of the first round. That's insanity. That is a statement win for Arman Tsarukyan, and I can't wait to see who Arman fights next. We're going to talk about potential opponents in this video as well. But how did the fight go down? The fight didn't last very long, so I can basically recap the entire fight for you. Basically, it was Beneil Dariush chipping away with some leg kicks. He landed a couple hard inside leg kicks on Arman Tsarukyan. He started the fight throwing a high kick that was blocked by Arman. And to be honest, Arman was throwing a few shots, but not really landing all that much until he landed and put Beneil Dariush to sleep. The way this sequence started was Arman threw a right hand that kind of grazed Beneil Dariush on the side of the head. But as that heavy right hand came in, you seen Beneil Dariush kind of duck down, with his guard up. And you have Arman grab the Muay Thai clinch, throw a knee up the middle that I thought was the knee that really hurt Beneil, but it didn't even really land on the replay. And then as Beneil backs away from the knee, Arman throws a nasty right hand, drops Beneil. Beneil's basically done after the right hand lands, follows up with nasty ground and pound shots and finishes him off. And the ref actually jumps in and stops Arman from inflicting any more damage after that. But what a KO win. And I want to say this was surprising, but it's really not all that surprising the more I start to think about it. Because Beneil Dariush is a guy for a while that I feel like has been overhyped. And I hate to say that because it's kind of taken away from the performance from Arman Tsarukyan. But if you look at Beneil's resume overall, this isn't something that's out of the ordinary. I mean, he had that long win streak for a while, but he got chinned by Charles Oliveira in the first round. You go back on his resume, he got chinned by Alexander Hernandez. You go back on his resume, and that was in the first round too. He got chinned by Edson Barboza in the second round. He even got chinned by Ramsey Ninja all the way back, way back in 2014, and that was in the first round as well. So Beneil Dariush getting up there in age. He's been chinned before. He's lost 5 fights via KO. It's not all that surprising, but it's surprising to see Arman Tsarukyan win a fight with his hands and basically one-punch KO power. That's not really something we've seen a whole lot of from Arman Tsarukyan. And to do it against Beneil Dariush, I mean, Beneil was on that long win streak, and I know it wasn't the greatest win streak, and I've been one of those people that says the MMA community's overhyping Beneil Dariush, but it's still a good win against somebody towards the top of the division. And you look at the division right now, you got Charles Oliveira arguably getting a title shot off of a win over Beneil Dariush. And I know they could say, oh, well, Charles took Beneil's chin, say whatever you want. But I still think Arman's right up there in discussions for #1 contender. He called for a title shot on the mic. But to see him evolve his hands a little bit, and I know we didn't really see a whole lot of it, but to see him get a one-punch KO, like if I thought Arman would get a KO in this fight, I thought he would land like a head kick or something along those lines, hurt Beneil badly and just finish him off after that. But didn't mix in any grappling, didn't have to even shoot for a takedown, barely landed anything because the shots that he landed literally put Beneil Dariush to sleep. There was a couple shots thrown before that, but nothing really landed super clean. And you had Dariush kind of just kicking at the legs. But I'll say this, Beneil's too slow. He's too slow. I said it for a long time. He's stuck in the mud, and we saw it in this fight too. There were some of the shots that he was throwing with his hands. Beneil still got pretty, I don't want to say pretty fast, but decently fast kicks. Beneil's hands are too slow. His reaction time is too slow. It's too labored. And honestly, this is going to sound crazy, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Beneil Dariush. I like Beneil Dariush. Someone needs to check his birth certificate. He looks like he's at least 45 years old. You're telling me that guy is in his 30s, and I know the gray hair, is very deceptive, but just the way he moves, the way he looks with his gray beard and gray hair, it's just, Beneil has to be 40 basically. He has to be 45. It seems like that. So the fact that you look at Beneil right now, and he's only 34 years old, that's crazy to me. Check his birth certificate, but nonetheless, Arman gets it done. It's weird because it can be the highest of highs and lowest of lows. Because now I see people saying Beneil Dariush needs to retire. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, losing to Arman Tsarukyan, losing to Charles Oliveira, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. Beneil Dariush can still be very competitive with some of the other guys at lightweight. I know he got KO'd in the first round in both those fights. I'd like to see him take some time off. And I want to shout out Beneil because I know it sounds almost like I'm disrespecting Beneil, but he's the only guy willing to fight guys who are up and coming. He's the only guy willing to take fights like this against a dangerous opponent who's ranked behind him, because the lightweight division and I almost want to make a dedicated video on this because it disgusts me. The lightweight division is full of ranking squatters. It's like, Justin Gaethje obviously fought Rafael Vaziev, so he's not really the case. But you have guys like Michael Chandler, you have guys like Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje was to a certain extent before he fought Vaziev. It's like they only want to fight a mix of each other, and they don't want to fight any of the up-and-coming contenders. Beneil Dariush took on Gamrot, who at the time really should have been Tsarukyan. If you think about that, because Gamrot got that fight off of beating Tsarukyan, but it was borderline a robbery, so Tsarukyan versus Gamrot, or Tsarukyan versus Dariush should have happened back at UFC 280 in 2022. So this was a long time coming. I'm just glad that Arman got his shot at somebody towards the top of the lightweight division, because right now Beneil Dariush ranked number 4 in the division. So I'm assuming Arman, you look at the rankings right now, Arman has to be at least number 4, but you know what? I would put him over Dustin Poirier. If I'm making the rankings, I know it's blood and sweat and Honolulu and all that garbage doing the actual rankings. If I'm doing the rankings, I'm putting him over Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier sitting at number 3, Gaethje sitting at number 2, Oliveira sitting at number 1. To be honest, I'd like to see Arman as number 1 contender. I know the rankings, number 1 doesn't necessarily mean title shot, but I think Tsarukyan looked really good in this fight. I understand, again, that I'm kind of devaluing the win by saying I'm not that high on Dariush, but we've not seen Arman use these abilities. We've seen his excellent grappling. We've seen his excellent defensive grappling and scrambles and jiu-jitsu, and we haven't really seen him mix into the arsenal one-punch KO power. So now, building this performance and kind of adding it together with some of his other performances, that's what makes me so impressed here. Because he has really good grappling. Can he stop the takedowns of Islam Makhachev? They have the history where they had a close fight where Arman stepped in on short notice. So Arman just slowly adding on these skills and improving, and he's still very young. That's what makes this win so impressive to me. It's not that, he chinned Beneil Dariush in the first round. It's that, he used his one-punch KO power. His striking with his hands has obviously improved. And when I seen them in the stare-down pre-fight, in the octagon, when I looked at Beneil, I'm saying he looks 75. There's no muscle definition. And then I'm looking at Arman Tsarukyan. What's he, 26? I don't even remember how old Arman is off the top of my head. But looking absolutely jacked, I'm like, damn, I have not been confident in a main event pick in a long time, honestly. Because I was like, Arman's going to starch him. And I was I can't believe the people who were confident that Beneil Dariush was going to KO Charles Oliveira or demolish Charles Oliveira, they need to be embarrassed of themselves. I was confident when I picked Charles, and I was confident when I picked Arman Tsarukyan, and I picked Gamrot. I wasn't crazy confident in that one, and Beneil Dariush proved me wrong. But shout out to Beneil for fighting some of these guys. But you know what also I want to say while we're talking about kind of fan bases, a lot of people were saying Arman was overrated because he essentially dominated Joaquim Silva, but Joaquim Silva hurt him in the second round, caught him with a big shot, I believe it was behind the ear, had him hurt, had him wobbly, and people were acting as if because that happened, even though he dominated the majority of the fight out of getting caught with one shot, somehow he was overrated. Somehow, Arman Tsarukyan was a fraud. This kind of proves that's not true. He just got caught with a big shot. I mean, look at Joaquim Silva fought on the same card. He won against a much lesser opponent and had a tough time. But just because he clipped Arman one time doesn't mean Arman was somehow overrated. Arman is on a decent win streak now. He's looked super impressive. The Gamrot loss isn't even a real loss in my opinion. That's kind of a fraudulent loss, because I remember one of the rounds you had Tsarukyan drop Gamrot and the judge gave Gamrot that round, which on that judge's scorecard would have flipped the fight for Arman Tsarukyan, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time. I don't really remember the exact specifics. But Arman went out there and got it done against Beneil Dariush. I think it's a quality win. I think it builds on his resume. And I'll tell you this right now. Maybe this is a hot take. You guys will have to let me know down in the comments. Arman Tsarukyan getting the next title shot, for me, it has to happen. I don't think there's a fight right now in the UFC that I want more than Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan 2 for the lightweight title. Book it for Saudi Arabia. Charles Oliveira doesn't want to go to the Middle East. He doesn't want to go to Abu Dhabi. He doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. Give it to Arman Tsarukyan. And if you're not, because I made a video recently, which I'll link in the end cards as well as the description if you want to check it out. I said recently, I think it'll be Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje in Saudi Arabia in March. Well, let's say they do make that fight. Well, the no-brainer to me is Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira. And Arman said, I want the title fight next. If not, I'll fight anyone. And even called out Justin Gaethje apparently at his post-fight kind of press conference after the fact. He called out Justin Gaethje. I love that. I love the fact that Arman's young. He's elite of the elite, and he's willing to fight anyone, and he's willing to stay active, and he's not going to say, oh, I want a title shot, and if I don't get it, I'm going to sit on the sidelines and whine and cry. I absolutely love that of Arman Tsarukyan. And, you know, I really think very, very soon, I think there's going to be a changing of the guard at lightweight. I know we thought kind of with Gamrot fighting Dariush and Fiziev fighting Gaethje, we really thought we were going to get, you know, the kind of the changing of the guard a while ago. But I'm looking at Arman Tsarukyan, and then I'm looking at the top of this division. I might favor Arman to beat Charles Oliveira. To be honest, I do favor Arman to beat Charles Oliveira. You know, Arman could out-grapple Justin Gaethje. That'd be a closer fight. I don't know if it would be a closer fight. All these fights at the top are competitive matchups, but these guys are getting older. And, you know, Beneil's, you know, he's 34 somehow, miraculously. But you have guys like Chandler, Dariush, Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira. Oliveira's a little bit younger than all those guys, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's like early 30s. But I think there will be a changing of the guard soon. Fiziev, even though he lost to Gaethje, had a very good showing early. And you look at some of these guys making their way up the ranks. Benoit Saint Denis, Jalen Turner got a big win tonight. I'll talk about that in my full card post fight. There's just a lot of younger talent making their ways up in the lightweight division. I think there will be a serious changing of the guard soon enough. And I can't wait to see who they book Arman against next. But I really want to see Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. Arman showed tonight, and honestly, not just tonight, he showed over the course of his career. I mean, what he did to Joaquim Silva absolutely dominated him outside of getting clipped with one shot. You know, the way he looked against Gamrot, that was a super impressive fight. There was a lot of scrambles. I don't think there's a more compelling fight right now than Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan 2. And maybe I'm living in a world of recency bias. Maybe I am. But I think Arman is the guy that can challenge Islam Makhachev. And I literally think I couldn't be more hyped for that fight. Meanwhile, you got guys like Michael Chandler, Dariush getting up there in age. I mean, Chandler has been sitting around for 2 years. He's in his late 30s, hoping that Conor will take him into the NBA Finals public restroom. That's what Chandler's been doing. Chandler could have found himself in a title fight had he just fought someone. But he's not. He's not. So Chandler's going to sit on the sidelines for maybe another 6 months and then find out he's not getting the Conor McGregor fight. And then he's going to end up fighting someone like Benoit. Hold on, wait a second. I just remembered this. Someone suggested in the live chat tonight, yeah, book Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint Denis next. Are you trying to kill I almost said you're trying to kill Benoit Saint Denis. Are you trying to kill Beneil Dariush? Benoit Saint Denis is a savage. I mean, think about a future division. Think about this. Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, then we'll kind of throw out all the old guys. Then imagine this. Benoit Saint Denis, Arman Tsarukyan, Rafael Fiziev, Jalen Turner. I mean, that's the future of like the top 5, top 6 of the lightweight division. It's absolute savagery. I cannot wait for it. But I, for one, I might make a dedicated video on this maybe. I don't know. I need to see Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan too. I need to see it. Book it ASAP. Arman took no damage here. He'll be more than willing to go to Saudi Arabia. This was a statement performance that you can build a rematch on. They have the history where Arman stepped in on short notice at 22 years old and gave Islam one of his most competitive fights. And I don't believe elevating someone off a loss, but at the same time, you have to put context to that fight. And it was many years ago. So Arman has improved time and time again. And one thing I always look for in a future UFC champion is every time out they're adding new skills. I said it about Charles Oliveira time after time. You can go back and look at some of my early videos on the channel. Charles Oliveira, every time out during that long winning streak, I just seen him improving his skill set and adding new facets to his game. And Arman, one of the most well-rounded fighters in the lightweight division right now. Knockout power, excellent offensive grappling, defensive grappling, good defensive striking. He showed it in this fight. His hand was always right. His guard was always up, right at his chin, blocking it. Chin was tucked. Everything looked solid. Striking looked fast, and he found his openings. And whether or not that was against Grandpa Beneil Dariush, you know, it is what it is. I still think this was an amazing win by Arman Tsarukyan, and I need to see him in a title fight next. Crazy first-round KO. Absolutely nasty, filthy finish. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And make sure you go check out the full card post-fight, which will be out soon. Thank you so much for watching.